Welcome to WeAreDB. My name is Brenton, and I'm joined always by Danielle.
That's me.
You just like saying that, don't you?
Yep, it works.
Okay. And this is a continuation of our Marvel Cinematic Universe series of episodes, Phase 3. This will be the third one that we do, the last one. So this has kind of been a very long journey summarizing the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it started back in April when Avengers Endgame came out. And it very quickly became one of the top movies in the IMDb, which is why we started this discussion. It became number 2 out of all time, with only The Shawshank Redemption beating it. And then as more people went and rated it on the IMDb, it lowered and lowered down on the list. So we started that conversation back when we did episode 14 in Inception. So I'd highly recommend go listening to that one.
Just for a little bit of insight into why we decided to take on this journey.
It's kind of an interesting one, actually, because you hadn't seen many of them, and we were discussing as to whether or not we should watch Endgame as a standalone movie, or go through and actually watch all the first 21 movies. And it's kind of an interesting discussion there. And that was months ago, because we're currently up to episode 40 at the time of this recording. So it was a little while ago. And then we decided to do a few of these bonus episodes. So we recorded a 10-minute section, which you would have heard in part 1, on what you thought of the series before going into it, because we decided we would go through and actually watch them all. A lot of you guys spoke out and said, no, that's actually the right way to do Endgame, and you're probably correct. Endgame doesn't really hold up on its own quite a lot. So we recorded that, and then we went through and we watched all the movies. It took about 5 months.
Took a long time.
On the journey to Endgame, because we wanted to rank it. So, at the time of this recording, about 8 months after Endgame has released, it seems to have plateaued and stabilized. I think it's number 58 on the list, which is pretty good.
It's still high.
Yeah, Avengers Infinity War is like 62 or something. It's very close. They're very close to each other. And I think that they're the only two that are on the list. I think Black Panther might be on there really high up. But in the top 100, they're definitely the only two. And they seem to be, that's probably going to be where they're going to be sitting for some time. Because people actually went out and rated them more accurately as to what they should be. So we'll be talking about those more in depth when we get to those. And then we started just doing a quick breakdown of all the movies in the MCU, and that has led us up to here. I just wanted to do a quick summary just to, in my own head, as to what has this journey been, because it seems like it's more than what it is. I'm trying to understand what this has been to get through all the MCU movies.
So what has it been for you then? You're saying you're trying to understand what it has been. Yeah,
because Endgame came out, and then we had to record in the Inception episode, and then we recorded again, and then we recorded 2 more for Phase 2, and then there was a Phase 3. So there's 6 times we've brought up the MCU. And this is the final one, until we actually get to doing the Avengers movies come around episode 60. Which I look forward to, breaking these down more. But right here, we're going to give a bit of a brief discussion up to and including Captain Marvel. So this starts off with Captain America, the third one, Civil War. So this is basically a retaliation to what happens in Avengers Age of Ultron, right? With the whole events in Sokovia. So this is the introduction of the Sokovia Accords, which is basically the UN saying that we want to try to control what the Avengers actually do, because you're just going around wreaking havoc. It kind of reminds me of that scene from Team America, World Police. Remember the puppets? And they just go around and they try to stop the terrorists, but they end up blowing up all of Egypt and Paris and stuff. And they're like, yeah, we saved the world. And then the news headline guy is like, Team America has again fucked up the entire world or whatever. It's basically what is happening in these movies, so they're trying to control it. What do you think of this movie?
This was a really integral kind of turning point for the series. There's
there's
a lot going on, and I think at times it was kind of tricky to follow.
Yeah, it is.
Just because there was a lot going on and it was all so important. In terms of, like you said, about the Accords, and then there's stuff going on with Hydra, and then there's, there's some reveals, and there's
yeah, it's like, is Bucky good? Is he bad? Is he brainwashed? Who is this? People are, like, impersonating him.
Impersonating who?
Bucky.
Oh, right. Yeah. There's a lot going on in this movie. That said, I really liked this movie. I think it was one of my favorite Captain America movies.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because everything's really starting to come together in terms of, like, the Avengers storyline. Stuff's starting to really get rolling and take shape.
This very much feels like an Avengers movie because of that really big fight scene in the airport where you've got two teams versus each other. This is the introduction of Spider-Man into the MCU, which we've said before is a great integration. They've done it. They did it perfectly.
I understand why they called it Civil War. This probably could have been an Avengers movie and not a Captain America movie.
Probably.
I don't know that it necessarily focused on Captain America so much.
I think they called it a Captain America movie. Well, for starters, that's the way the Civil War thread goes in the comic books, I believe.
Yep.
But there's also a very big thread here with Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
And figuring out if he's good or bad or whatever. And then there's also sort of a look into Peggy Carter. She died. She was old age or sickness or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a look into Captain America's character there. And Peggy's niece, the lady that was next door. I think there are a few things here that it explores Captain America more than any other character. But I understand what you're saying. It does feel like an Avengers movie. This is a better Avengers movie than Ultron.
Yeah, I really like this one. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this movie, but it was played out well. There was some really cool tech. I liked it. I don't know how else to like round out what I'm trying to say with this one.
Mm-hmm. This is also the introduction of Black Panther, which I love that character. I really like the introduction, and you understand who he is, what his motivations are, how does he sort of work. You don't understand how his powers work yet, but I like both of the introductions to the main characters in this. This is the first time Ant-Man actually gets to see the rest of the group. So it's sort of his introduction.
That's an interesting dynamic. Like I said, there's so much going on in this movie.
There is a lot going on. I think the bad guy's plan makes no fucking sense if you actually think about it.
I don't remember what it is.
Exactly, right? The point that you don't remember. It's a guy from Sokovia who...
Oh, that's right. He impersonates a psychologist. Yeah,
he was trying to pit the two of them against each other. The amount of research and time and effort that he would have had to put in to actually try and pull this off, if you actually sat down and think about it, it's so implausible. Some people hate this movie because of that. But I think if you ignore that, then it's kind of really enjoyable. It has some good elements in there. It's kind of a fun movie, particularly with the integration of the new characters. This is a very good one to start off Phase 3 because of those. This is a new feeling. This is a new phase. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
One thing that always sort of bugged me ever since the first time I saw it was, so Captain America doesn't want to sign the Sokovia Accords. He doesn't think that these things need to be governed by a bigger body because by the time it actually gets through all this fucking democratic paperwork process, the bad guys have got away with it, and you kind of need to just act now kind of thing. Mm-hmm. While Tony Stark, who was trying to put defense around the whole planet, essentially, both metaphorically and physically, he wants to sign the Sokovia Accords, and he's trying to take Cap in to try and sign these things. Mm-hmm. The thing that annoys me is I feel like that really goes against both of their characters. Captain America is a military man. He follows rules. He does what he's told. And you can see that in every other movie except for this one. As soon as he's...
think their viewpoint should have been switched.
Yes. Tony Stark is meant to be this sort of playboy that doesn't follow by any rules except his own. And he's the one who's trying to actually get order into the group and make them sign the Accords. and it doesn't feel like they're in their right character minds. Both of them should have been switched. That would have made it a better movie for me, because both of them seem like they're going against their character traits. I mean, Captain America doesn't want to join up and follow the rules, and I don't know, it's just, it doesn't seem right to me. That's always
I can see that. Yeah. Fair enough point. Again, this is one of those things that, like, there's a lot that you kind of have to just let it slide. You know?
Yeah, and that's a shame. I don't think that that's a good thing. That kind of knocks it down in my mind as to what a good movie is. I don't like how you have to, like, sort of turn off your brain and don't think about this. Let's just not worry about that. If you do that, however, you do enjoy it more. So, hey, pick your battles, right? Yeah. I enjoy these movies. I quite like Captain America Civil War for what it is.
It was really good. I enjoyed it. Doctor Strange?
Then we got Doctor Strange, yeah. So what did you think about this? You had heard about this before you saw it.
I remember when it came out, and I think I didn't realize it was in the whole same MCU universe as, like,
right,
Thor
you just thought it was another...
I just thought it was another superhero movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, I really want to see that. Because I've always been into the mystical metaphysical, magic sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed this. It was a big switch from everything that we've looked at. I like the way that a lot of it gets integrated later. I really
a lot of the
it.
times when they introduce these big concepts, you're sort of just like, okay, now how does that fit in with the rest of the thread and all the other characters? So,
and again, like, I think, because in the beginning I was like, I don't like all this silliness when, you know, Iron Man started as, like, a military machine, very grounded in the real world. Now we've got Thor, and now we've got wizards and stuff. Like, I don't always like the sort of universe mixing, but that's very much the direction that the MCU took. So again, you kind of have to go with it. I remember thinking, like, how are they going to do this with Doctor Strange? And they ended up doing it really well.
There's quite a few people that rank this in probably the top 5, at least. A lot of people really like this one in terms of all the other MCU movies. It's pretty highly regarded. That being said, I actually fucking hate this movie. I can't stand this movie.
You don't like it?
Not at all.
So you're saying a lot of people like it and you just don't like it?
Yes, I don't get it.
Okay.
I don't see it at all. I respect your opinion, but I hate it. I've seen it 3 times. The first time was on a plane because my standard's lower on a plane, right? That's how it usually works. And then I watched it again when I did my week-long marathon to watch all the MCU in a week. And then I watched it again for you. So I've seen it 3 times. I've given it a shot. I still hate it. I hate this more than Thor: The Dark World. Well, for starters, Stephen Strange is such an asshole prick, and I don't think he has a good character arc. He ends the movie still as an asshole prick. He never grows. He never learns. He doesn't appreciate anything. The rest of it's just this CGI nonsense that sort of strings together all these big theories that are very vague. These, like, powerful MacGuffins that don't really explain what they can do, what their abilities are, who can get them. He learns 1,000 years worth of knowledge in, like, 3 days because he's a genius, quote unquote. I don't like it at all.
Okay. See, I liked, because you're saying it does have some big Eastern religious philosophical influences. So religious influences and philosophical influences, primarily Hinduism and Buddhism. That you're looking at, because he goes to, where does he go? India?
I think so.
Yeah.
Tibet.
What I'm bringing up with that is that the way that they've actually integrated, because I'm very familiar with a lot of these ideas and philosophies, the way that they've integrated them into a mainstream 21st century superhero movie was actually quite impressive.
Yeah, it's similar to how they brought in Norse mythology into Thor. You know what I mean? It's like these things that kind of really exist in the real world in lore, and they've made it a superhero in the MCU.
Yes. So, like, and the accuracy of what they were doing, like, I remember thinking, that's a really cool depiction of
Yeah.
chakras or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I appreciated it.
And
I
what
thought
an
it was,
out-of-body experience looks like. What does it
yeah.
mean to, like,
So I
go
think
for a
that's
celestial journey or whatever they are?
I think that's what I appreciated about it a lot, was like the physical depictions of these metaphysical ideas and experiences was really interesting and cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciated that. It was really visually appealing.
It is very colorful.
Yes, I kind of see what you're saying with the story arc and things like that. And again, this was cool because this is a really standalone movie.
It is.
So
what else is actually? What other characters are actually in here? I don't think there are in Doctor Strange, are there? There is the introduction to the Time Stone. This is the first time we see the green one.
When does Thor come to the...
Thor meets Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok.
Right, okay. Which is a little bit...
So I don't think that this movie really has much else tying in. See, the first half, at least, of Phase 3, there's a lot of origin stories again. And this is one of the first ones. So those usually stand alone pretty well. So this is the introduction to Stephen Strange and the Time Stone. Those are the two biggest things that came out of this movie, I think.
Yeah. I think this is one of my... That's interesting. I think this is one of my favorite origin stories, simply because it is so colorful. It has some really cool ideas. I'm with you. He was a total prick. I'm going to argue with you. I think he did learn and grow to appreciate things.
Slightly.
Yes.
He's still an asshole, though.
Yes. Well, he's conceited and pompous as fuck, but so is Tony Stark, and so is Carol
he's in a
Danvers.
lovable way.
Like, a bunch of these people are very, like, I'm the smartest person in the world, or whatever, you know what I mean?
I'm the most powerful Avenger.
Yeah. I'd like to see where they go with that in the future, if there's going to be another dick measuring competition.
Oh, can I just say, that's something that we completely missed when we were talking about Captain America Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that the establishment of Scarlet Witch and Vision being in a relationship? Because they had to stay back at the compound, and Vision had to sort of watch Scarlet Witch, right?
Yes.
Which is kind of...
Why are you saying Scarlet Witch?
The red bitch, Elizabeth Olsen. What do you think her name is?
Her name is Wanda something.
Yeah, that's her actual name, but
yeah,
her superhero name is Scarlet Witch.
Okay. It makes sense.
Did you not know that? It's funny that you watched all the movies and they never actually really say that, do they?
No.
They just call her Wanda. Those two alone are the most powerful Avengers. You got Vision and Scarlet Witch, who could destroy everyone else, and they basically had to keep them back at the compound because they couldn't really write in how these powers are going to be worked amongst humans, you know what I mean? And now with the introduction of Doctor Strange, you've got these three characters that are so overpowered. Like, there's the boss battle at the end of Doctor Strange where he's fighting Dormammu, and he's reliving that scene over and over again. And apparently he did that like millions of times until Dormammu like went insane because he couldn't get rid of Doctor Strange. He was trapped basically in this loop, which is really quite a unique thing. I'll give it that. That's like, in order to be able to do that, Iron Patriot or Warhammer or whatever the fuck his name was, that he can't do that shit. Bucky's standing around shooting people with guns, you know what I mean? Look at the power inequality there, you know what I mean? Like, you've got these characters that are more powerful than Superman, and you have to try and level it and balance it in sort of these things. It's hard to describe, and you establish a lot of errors and inequalities when you try to do that in a superhero movie. It's difficult. That's all I'll say.
See, and again, you gotta look past it. I hate saying that because it's like, I actually really enjoy these movies, and when I'm watching it, I'm not thinking about these things. I'm just enjoying the movie. So I think you gotta give them credit in that, like, they do it in such a way that it, like, unless you're like really like nitpicky, you're gonna enjoy it. You know?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Doctor Strange, you didn't like it. I really liked it. it's one of those ones, it's very different from all of the rest. It's very different. Like, it's on par different with Thor. How different it is.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
In terms of, like, mysticism.
Well, who's the love interest in that? I'm trying to remember her name. I can see her face.
What actress
That's what I was asking,
was it?
yeah. Who's the chick who's always in those time travel movies?
Oh, that was Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams, that's right.
Yeah.
I think Rachel McAdams is quite underused in this. She's sort of just like this damsel in distress, even though she's also like a brilliant doctor. I think that she is a great actress, and she's sort of just a side character here, which is a shame.
It is a shame. I would have liked to have seen more of her.
Yeah, that's all.
Again,
hopefully you'll see more of that in the new Doctor Strange movies.
I totally forgot that she was in this, and I'm just, again, thinking
exactly,
like,
right?
all of the people involved in the MCU, like, it must be like all of Hollywood. Seriously.
Yeah. There are so
been
many actors in
an
the MCU.
Avengers movie. Far out. Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
This, talk about colourful. Holy shit, this movie is all the colours.
Is it just called Guardians 2?
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because they're going off, the mixtape?
Okay,
Remember the
so
mixtape
it's
says
not
volume?
got any sort of colon subname.
No, it's just
Okay.
Volume 2.
Okay.
What did you think about this one?
I don't remember what happened. I just know that I liked it because it's Guardians and it's silly and it's got the good
I liked
soundtrack.
the soundtrack, I liked the characters, but you got those in the first one.
Oh, this is the one.
I didn't particularly like this one.
This is the one with Peter's dad, right?
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
introduced Peter's dad as a celestial who can sort of goes around the universe mating with different creatures to try and spread his seed or whatever.
His literal seed of, like, it's a plant
Yeah.
and he's going to take over. This is, again, where I'm like, how is this guy off everyone's radar?
Yeah.
And they're just like, in one movie, blip, okay, no more threat.
Yeah, isn't this guy like way more powerful than Thanos? Like,
Yeah.
he should be your big problem. So he's basically an entity that's the size of the planet by the end of this sort of thing. You know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of Unity from that episode of Rick and Morty where
Yes.
this entire creature that's like taken over all of these beings. If you haven't seen Rick and Morty, you probably wouldn't know what I'm talking about there. But this movie lost me a lot. I think it falls flat. It doesn't have the charm that the first one does. It does in some elements. There's a part where Rocket is like trying to protect the crashed ship. And Nebula's there as well, but Rocket is an amazing character. I love him. I think that's a great sequence. Again, like I said, the characters are good. I like the introduction of some of the characters here. There's some really funny parts with Mantis.
I was going to say, we get introduced
Soundtrack
to
is good.
Mantis, and between Mantis and Drax, that relationship
There's some really funny
is perfect.
episodes there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to remember. This one
Oh, and we've
was
got
very...
Baby Groot.
Yes, he's so cute. I love Baby Groot.
Yeah.
I am Groot. I love it. I love it. So this movie was necessary again, right? Like, there's a lot of relationship building and character building that happens, and it's kind of like, oh, we need a plot to go along with it. We'll do this, you know.
So why do you think this one was necessary?
Because you're growing the relationship between Peter and Gamora, and you're, like I said, you get the introduction of Mantis, you get to see, because last time we're just like, oh my god, Groot! Like, Groot's dancing in a plant pot when we last see him, right?
Yeah.
So now we see, like, we know Groot's okay, we see that he's doing his thing. You just get more character development.
I would probably agree with the whole Peter Quill and Gamora thing, but Mantis isn't a vital character, and she definitely isn't when next time you see her, which is Avengers Infinity War.
She's comic relief.
Yeah, but I don't think you should make a movie on one side character being comic relief, because even though I didn't like Doctor Strange, it was an introduction to a vital character who comes in very useful later on, and it was the introduction to one of the 6 Infinity Stones. So it's like, okay, yeah, we kind of needed that. Even Thor the Dark World, which a lot of people don't like, it's the introduction to one of the Infinity Stones and shows you that progression there. What does this one give apart from establishing Peter and Gamora's relationship a little bit better?
Not much.
Does that make any sense?
It goes into and answers some questions, because in the first one, everyone's like, what's your origin, Star-Lord?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, he's half human, half celestial. So it explores some more of the universe. Yeah, I don't know.
Who's
It's
his dad's
fun.
character again with the mohawk?
Who? Oh!
Quill. I forget his name.
It's like Landu or something. Yeah.
It might be, yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I don't like
the blue guy.
I don't like his arc at all in this, because he's a dick throughout the entire first Guardians of the Galaxy. He starts this one also.
Him. Yeah.
He's trying to, like, kidnap fucking Quill or whatever. And then he's like, towards the end, he says, oh, I'm sorry, son, or whatever. And they sort of have this loving moment where he sort of sacrifices himself for Quill. And then towards the end, everyone's like, oh my god, it's so sad that he died, and it's Quill's original father and all the rest of it. And then there's like this space fireworks display, this salute to this great man that no one fucking liked, apparently. It was just like whiz-bang redemption on his deathbed, and I'm like, I don't buy that whatsoever.
And we get this introduction to the Ravagers, like all the Ravagers with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, the Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting your point. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. It was an enjoyable movie to watch. It was
I'm not going to rush out and watch
appealing.
it again.
Yeah, I enjoyed it when I watched it.
I think I still enjoy this more than Doctor Strange, though.
Like I wanted more Guardians and I got it. You know? That's kind of what it was.
It seems like it's going to be a little while before Volume 3 comes out. However, they have confirmed a Volume 3, so...
I'd like to see
Look
how
forward to
that
that.
goes.
Yeah, maybe Thor will be part of it.
That'd be weird. You're probably right, but it'll be strange. Spider-Man Homecoming?
So next we got Spider-Man Homecoming. Now this one was an interesting one because it was introducing... I mean...
It was going
It was
back...
the first standalone Spider-Man movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I liked this movie.
This was a good movie.
It was cool. So I like the introduction in that it goes back and it's like his vlog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talking about...
It's like recapping of what happened in Civil War in a really funny, unique way.
Very teenage Peter Parker kind of way.
Yeah.
I remember when we watched it, for some reason, I didn't like with this one that I'm like, oh, I'm getting introduced to all these new characters who don't matter. I remember thinking
side characters at his high school?
Yes. I'm like, I don't care. I don't know why.
It's a more down-to-earth, like, Spider-Man movie instead of just, like, whiz-banging around the galaxy and different dimensions and stuff. It was a fresh installment after those ones. And that's what you want from a Spider-Man movie. So you didn't like that?
I don't know. I don't know. I remember when I watched, I was like, I don't care to meet all these teenagers who aren't going to be important later. Even though they probably will be. I don't know. So, goes through what happened at the end of Civil War, then it goes back and goes over how he got his powers. Like it's...
Very briefly.
Yeah. And then I do really appreciate that this one, like, compared to the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, there's a relationship with Tony Stark.
Yeah, because I think that was established in the comic books after the Tobey Maguire ones. I think it was the late 2000s when they put those in the comic books, where Tony Stark was building him suits, and he's got the Spider-Man suit with all the legs in it.
Mm.
Those were in the comic books after Tobey Maguire. I could be wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure. I love Tom Holland, though, even though...
He's perfect.
I did like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I like Spider-Man as a character. I like the movies. However, this is the best one so far.
I think the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies are solidified in everyone's mind as, like, the Spider-Man movies. But
they were, like, the biggest
but he was
superhero
such a
movies.
Dork.
I think Peter Parker's meant to be a dork.
Yeah, but...
I mean,
but,
he
like,
created his own web slinger things.
I don't know. I buy Tom Holland as Peter Parker a lot more than I buy Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker.
He's much more of like a nervous, fidgety sort of teenager who's trying to deal with these awkward situations.
Because he can act it better because he's actually that young.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just... What's he always say? What did he say?
He's much more believable as someone like that.
Oh, geez, or whatever. Like, he says a whole lot of stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
he's always calling Tony Mr. Stark.
Yeah. Holy man!
So the only other character from the MCU appears to be Tony Stark in this, which is kind of vital. It really is, because he's sort of this father figure. He's the introduction to the MCU.
He's a mentor.
Yeah, and you can see how Spider-Man desperately wants to get into that because it's the Avengers, you know what I mean? So he's just always he's always calling Happy to try and
report a crime.
Have you got any more jobs for me? Have you got any more jobs? I wanna be an Avenger so bad, sort of thing. So I kind of like that. I love watching the montage of him trying to learn how to be a better Spider-Man. Isn't there one, there's a bit where he's, there's a guy who's locked his keys out of his car, and he's trying to, break in, and Spider-Man comes and, web slings him and stuff, and he's like, dude, it's my car! Anyway, there's a lot of mistakes in this where you can see him learning, you see him growing as a character.
And it's funny.
It's really fun. It's really fun.
Also, I totally love, so we get introduced to the Vulture here. And
He's a cool character.
I love how they've stitched together the events of, was it the Avengers?
In New York, yeah.
Yeah. And show you the aftermath of that and how it plays out. I thought that was so well done and really realistic.
Yeah, because we'd never really seen what had happened to all the alien gear and the creatures.
And this is I remember us talking about it. I'm like, this is probably what would actually happen. I don't know about building, but people would go black market and people would use it and try to gain things from it. I just thought, I really liked that that's how they tied up that loose end. And then you create a whole nother villain with it. I really liked the progression of this movie.
He's probably one of the best MCU villains. He's in the discussion, definitely. And I love that moment where you realize that he's, his love interest's dad.
You're like, oh, shit!
That's such an intense scene because he walks into his house and he knows straight up. But the Vulture doesn't know that the Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Yeah. And you've got this dynamic there. And it's only when they get in the car to go off to the homecoming that he also makes that connection. And then there's a really brilliant scene just before he lets Peter out of the car, and he's having this stern dad talk with him, just being like, don't mess with me and my business. And he's got that handgun in his hand. That's a brilliant scene. It's one of the best scenes of the movie, I think. It's so intense, and it's brilliantly paced, watching this dynamic between these two characters, because they both know who each other are. When do you ever really get the hero and the villain just sitting 2 feet away from each other, just talking?
Yeah.
Before, just being don't mess with me and I won't mess with you kind of thing, and then they split up. It's a good scene.
How did this movie end? They're in jail.
Who's in jail?
The Vulture's in jail, and he's talking to somebody. Who is he talking to? Because he's I
don't remember.
Is he dead? And I'm like, they're going to do something with this, and then they didn't do anything with it. Maybe they'll do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they, I don't know.
In the new Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
I can say, as someone who's seen it, I don't think that they lean into that.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened with that thread. Was it an end credit scene?
Yes.
Okay. The ending of this was them removing all of the items from the Avengers Tower to go to their new facility in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And there's that really cool plane with the cloaking device, so you can't really see it. It's basically just hitting the Invisicloak thing from Chamber of Secrets. The CGI in that scene doesn't really hold up for me. Spider-Man's hanging off the edge of this plane. It's really too dark to really see what's actually going on. So the fight scene in this probably could have been better. Apart from that, I really like this movie.
It was a fun one. Like
it was a fun one.
And
I love Ned as a character. He's great comic
Yeah.
book relief.
And besides being like a fun one, it actually holds up in terms of plot and everything. So
And it's very standalone.
yeah. No, it was good. Thor Ragnarok.
We have to watch more of Taika Waititi's work.
Yes.
He recently released, like 3 days ago, he did Jojo Rabbit, which is an interesting, very unique sort of take on a movie. But he did Hunt for the Wilder People, which I hear is amazing. And I heard very good things before he was even put on to do Thor Ragnarok. And he's going to do the next Thor as well, Thor 4, which is, Thor Ragnarok was very highly praised as the best Thor. It was very successful, so why would you take him off it? I'm just saying, like, we should watch more of his stuff because I feel like there's a lot of good stuff that's going to come out of Waititi.
I just want to say I fucking loved this movie.
Yeah?
It is totally my jam. I've always loved fantasy and mysticism and stuff, and this just totally dives right into the Norse mythology and, like, Kate Blanchett's character is a total badass.
Yeah.
Love
so this
her.
is his sister, yeah.
Yeah.
So, towards the beginning of this, you see the death of Odin, and then Kate Blanchett's character shows up, and she destroys Mjolnir, which was kind of a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Because this is, like, his hammer that he's had.
She just grabs it, and it goes, and that's
shatters,
it.
yeah. So that's kind of a really big introduction to that character, and she looks badass. She looks kind of like Maleficent, actually.
Yeah.
A better version of Maleficent.
A more scarier, dangerous version of Maleficent.
So Thor gets captured and taken to this big trash planet. Well, he goes to this trash planet and then gets captured. And then he has to fight in this big gladiator arena that he's kind of the prisoner. And then there's a really big reveal where he has to try and defeat the champion, which is revealed to be Hulk. And you loved this reveal.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god! And then I was so bummed because you said they actually did that in the trailer. Like,
They showed that Hulk was in this movie in the trailers and in the posters and all the promotional.
Nah, just leave it. It was such a good reveal. Like, I'm so glad that I missed it, because I was like, oh my god! Yeah.
I don't know why they do that.
What?
I don't know why they do that. So,
yeah.
I went into this movie knowing that Hulk was in there somewhere, because I've seen the poster. His face is right on the poster, so... I didn't realize when I was watching this, like, oh yeah, you haven't seen Hulk since Age of Ultron. There's been like 6 movies since then we haven't seen Hulk.
Yeah, he's just been gone.
Yeah, he just got stuck in this Quinjet and then flew off into space somehow and landed up there. It's because it's the planet of lost things.
Yes.
So he got lost and then he ended up there. So it's kind of a weird planet. There's some really funny bits in this. There's some that fall flat, but man, this is
Jeff
a pretty
Goldblum
goddamn fun. Jeff Goldblum's kind of a weird dude.
He's a weird dude.
He
he suited that character.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, oh yeah.
I just feel like the reason why I said we should watch more of Taika Waititi's work, because I'm feeling that his style of filmmaking and his style of humor fit perfectly into a Thor movie.
Yes. Yes. Like, there's just enough comic relief.
I wish that Marvel will let directors just, like, take their helm more.
Yeah.
Put your trust in someone, you know what I mean? Because that's what they did with Jon Favreau in the beginning, but they didn't do it for Edgar Wright and Ant-Man. It's kind of hard to pick a good set of directors to, like, take off this movie, you know what I mean?
This is where we really start to see that Thor has his own theme song, which is the Immigrant Song.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so perfect, and it fits so well, and I really liked it. It was a good choice. And that's all I got to say about that.
So Thor grows a beard in this. He cuts his hair. Kate Blanchett knocks his eye out. His whole character goes through a fair bit of a transformation. And then by the end of this, Asgard gets destroyed, which is kind of a big deal.
Was it at the end of this one that happens?
Yeah, because there was that giant demon thing, and Kate Blanchett's there. I don't even remember her character's name.
Because that was the Hala.
Hela?
Hala. Which
Hala.
is interesting because that's the name of the place on the Kree planet where Carol Danvers hangs out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So basically this movie ends with the remaining Asgardians on their ship heading back out to space.
Yeah.
With Asgard being destroyed.
But Asgard isn't a place, it's a people.
Right, yes. So we think that the Tesseract was also on there and was destroyed.
But we know it wasn't, so where was it?
Only because Loki stole it.
Little snaky bitch.
Yeah, I know, but what if he didn't steal it, then he would have just destroyed an Infinity Stone.
Didn't he fake his death in this?
Like all the time. It's happened like 4 times.
Yeah. Snaky bitch.
You really like this.
Oh yeah, it was so good. There was a lot of action.
I think it was very fun.
There's a lot of intense moments. It was super colorful. They really totally leaned into the mystical aspect in terms of like costuming, which I always think working on like
great.
On a historical movie or like a fantasy movie like this or like Lord of the Rings would be so fun because you get to like dress up ridiculousness, you know.
You have a fair bit of creativity.
Yes. So they like you said, Taika Waititi went perfect with this in terms of everything. Like it was so fun to watch. Yeah, it was great. I love this movie. It was full on, man. It was great.
I think one of the funniest characters in all of the MCU is his rock friend. What's his rock's friend name again? Kronk or something?
It's like Krog or something like that.
Something like that. Who's played by Taika Waititi. I just think that his humor it resonates with me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what he says. It's like, oh, we tried to start a rebellion, but we didn't get enough flyers or whatever. The only people who showed up was my mum and stepdad, but I hate him.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like that character.
Yeah, he's funny. It's perfect.
So next up, we have Black Panther. What did you think of this movie?
In the beginning, I was judging it like super harshly and I didn't understand why.
You're very sensitive to cultural appropriation.
Yes. And I don't know... Oh, for fuck's sake. Hold on.
What?
My phone just went ping.
You good?
Yeah.
Alright.
I hope that didn't affect things. It probably
should be
did.
fine.
Okay. However, fuck off.
Who is it?
Aaron.
I can't even hear it.
Like, of course nobody would know, but I'm just like, ugh, who sends like 3 things in a row?
Your eyes
Go
are
away.
sticking out of your head.
Alright, so in the beginning I judged it super harshly. However, it very quickly grew on me.
I think you were worried if, like, similar to the discussion that we did recently about The Lion King, did they just amalgamate all these sort of African cultures into one and just say this is Wakanda? Or is it actually what the area was like in terms of the dress and the dances and the garments? And
because we determined that the area that they said was supposed to be Wakanda was Ethiopia. It was like the southern part of Ethiopia.
I think it's west of Kenya and south of Ethiopia.
So we looked at it
Uganda.
Because again, like, Africa is not a country. Africa is the world's largest continent. There's going to be a lot of variation throughout Africa. And so I was like, well, a lot of this costuming is based on, like, Maasai culture. Is this, like, where were those people located? And they're in that part of the world. So it's, they actually...
I think it's pretty accurate, and I think it's really been quite sensitive.
Yes, so...
It addressed it.
We had to sit down and look it up for my own peace of mind. And so that made me feel a lot better. And it's less, oh, let's do what Aladdin did and squish everything together. It's very much less that and more, let's pay homage to the people who actually live in this area.
Yeah, I agree.
So that was cool.
Understand why your mind goes that way. Sometimes when you're too nitpicky, it can be annoying. Like, unless it's like blatantly
Absolutely.
in your face and blatantly obvious and offensive, then don't worry about it. If the people that this movie is depicting don't find it offensive, then you probably shouldn't
Then I
find it
shouldn't.
offensive.
But
I don't know.
I didn't know, so I even asked that. I was like, how is this received?
I think this was
know?
received very well. This was a big success, both in Africa and with African Americans, because that's where the Black Panther movement was meant to be. That was the point of these comic books, you know what I mean? Is to give
Yeah.
black people that power. That's why Wakanda has this power. They're like, oh, actually, we're one of the smartest and most advanced countries in the world. You don't actually know it. So that's why the Black Panther thread came, and it's really cool. I really like
really
the Black
cool.
Panther storyline.
This movie was different from all the rest in that, like, the soundtrack was super cool.
It was, yeah.
Very ethnically inspired, but done in a tasteful way.
I think most of the songs were Kendrick Lamar, the original ones.
And I'm even talking about the score. Like, the score, I really like the score.
So this is this is the first MCU movie to win Oscars. It was nominated for 6, which is kind of a big deal. And it won for Best Music Score, Best Costume Design, which it absolutely deserved. Like, I love the costuming in this. And Best Production Design.
Even between the tribes, because Wakanda's supposed to be made up of, what, 5 or 6 tribes?
5.
Yeah. And so each of the individual tribes had their own, you know, costuming.
Their own feel, yeah.
Yeah, so that was... I thought that was pretty cool. Now,
I love that chants that they do.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, it really gets you pumping, you know what I mean? Which is the point of the chant.
I made a point here that since finishing the movie, I've kind of answered my own question. And so that was pretty cool. So I remember thinking to myself, like, why are they keeping them with these primitive style weapons? They work with a lot of spears. Like, you're the most advanced civilization in the world, yet the producers here are depicting you as still very primitive. And I was thinking to myself, you know, still through that kind of harsh lens, like, you're depicting Africans as primitive even though they're very, very advanced. But what I realized is there was a line in the movie that was basically, if it's not broken, don't fix it, just make it better.
Well, you were talking about this also with the architecture of the building, because it looked like they were still having mud huts with straw thatched roofs, but in skyscraper versions. And that's a little offensive, is it not? Because, like you said, you're the most advanced country, and yet you still try and do these thatches and mud huts. You know, it's like, is that all you know, sort of thing? That's what the building sort of said to me.
That's what the building sort of said, but what the weapons said to me that I thought was interesting is that
they worked.
So why would you move from a spear to a gun when you could just make the spear better?
Right,
you know what I mean? So that kind of was a cool thread for me, that it took the whole movie and kind of sitting back afterwards and thinking about it, that I was like, okay. I don't know why I sat here and took this... I don't know why I was looking for it to be offensive to black people, because I don't think it was. And I don't think it was offensive to African people. I was just very much aware, just because some other production companies have just done such a bad job lately.
Yeah. I love the relationship dynamic between Black Panther and his group and the other group, the gorilla people, who is also in Wakanda, but they're the ones that have sort of had a falling out with, where they still have this respect for each other, even though they're kind of enemies. And you don't see that really in Western cultures. And I like the way that was depicted, because you can see that these people, like I said, still have respect. They still want to help each other for the greater good, even though they might not like each other. There's a level there of sort of professionalism.
Yes. And like with the fight in the beginning, he's like, you beat me. Like, I can't have beef with you because you beat me fair and square. Yeah. I can't be resentful because that's the way it is, you know? I knew that going into it. So yeah, I'm with you there too.
And that's why it's kind of jarring when Michael Jordan's character Warmonger comes in. He almost brings a very westernized way of thinking to the table, and I don't like that. He's thinking kind of like an American.
I remember thinking that and then saying that, like, he's approaching this with such a Western frame of mind.
Yes.
You know, like, we're going to take over the world and we're going to take things back for our black brothers and sisters and, you know, destroy anybody who gets in our way and we'll be the most powerful. And I just remember Michael Jordan played that character very, very well. Mm-hmm. He did a great job with it. I hated that character.
I kind of really liked him as a villain because I think his motivations were very pure. I think he actually did have claim to the throne. I think that he actually did win the fight fair and square. I liked his character, and going off what we were talking about in Spider-Man Homecoming with Vulture as being a very good MCU villain, I think Warmonger is currently my favorite MCU villain. I think
That's really interesting.
I think he's brilliant as a villain, and it makes you want to hate him, but not... I don't disagree with you, but I don't like you.
Yeah. I didn't like some of his decisions in blatant disrespect for tradition.
There was definitely that.
Yeah, and that...
But he's like, they're my people, I can do what I want.
No, they're not. You haven't been there. Like, fuck. Ugh. Like, that he destroyed the heart-shaped herb.
That was what annoyed me the most.
Well, because it's like, good for you. What are you going to do now?
What do they do from that point forward? Because, yeah, they kept one to give to Black Panther, but you can't grow anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know if that was addressed.
Maybe there's one floating around in the jungle out there somewhere. I don't know. They'll probably address it in a sequential movie. But yeah, that for me was just like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I do like Warmonger.
I didn't like Forrest Whitaker's attempt at an African accent.
Yeah. Everyone else was great because there's a lot of like American and English.
Yeah. And it was
there's a lot of good accents.
But he was really trying, and it just he didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
I think too, because we've been watching a lot of Godfather of Harlem, I'm just used to hearing him as like this New York guy, and all of a sudden he's, you know, trying to be Wakandan, and didn't quite play out. I liked his character though. I like the story in this too.
Yeah.
Like just the whole arc about, you know, the previous king and his brother and how everything went down there. And I really like the depictions of like the spirit world and things like that.
Yeah, that was good.
It was almost inspiring, I'd say. Like, because that's another thing that we really don't have in Western culture anymore, is that connection to
the
spirituality at all. So it was really nice to see a very mainstream depiction of that, and I thought it was a nice depiction as well.
I don't like how the vibranium is just like such a powerful MacGuffin, where it's just like, oh, how were you able to do this and have these advancements and have this material and have these technologies? The answer to all those questions is, vibranium. Vibranium. How does it actually work, though? It can't be an almighty healer. It can't also have, like, this invisible shield and have this, like, incredible metal and give Black Panther his powers. And there's so many different things that this one material can actually do. I just felt like that was just them, you know, whatever, just vibranium. Don't think about it, vibranium. And I hate that.
I'm glad Claw died, motherfucker.
Yeah, Andy Serkis's character. I love Andy Serkis.
Yeah. He was he played that really well, and he was a really cool character, but I hated his guts, and I'm glad he's gone.
And him and Martin Freeman are the only two main white people in this whole movie. Which is kind of surprising, because the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it was. I didn't even notice. This was a very good movie. I like Black Panther a lot.
Yeah.
I like the main character of Black Panther as well. I love his look on his suit. It's just, yeah, whatever. I love him.
It was good.
So straight after this, we have Avengers Infinity War.
Oh boy.
So the last time that we saw most of our main mainline Avengers was Captain America Civil War. And since then, we've had 3 origin stories. So Civil War is trying to put everyone in the same movie, get everyone's screen time, and when they announced that, with like up to this point, there's over 40 Avengers, I'm like, how could you possibly do that well? And I think they do it very well. I quite like Avengers Infinity War. So this movie is basically how Thanos ends up with all of the stones. It starts out with him showing that he's basically killed most of Asgard. It looks like he's killed all of them. And then you realize that Loki has taken the Tesseract. Thanos smashes it and gets the blue stone out of it. So that's his first one. So at the beginning of this movie, he has none. And then at the end of the movie, he has all 6. So that's kind of a really big progression there.
Yeah, I'm like, that was really quick.
At this point, we still don't know how you get the Soul Stone. No one knows where it is or how to get it.
Right.
So the biggest one where he wants to get is Visions. I don't remember how he got all of them. I really don't. I have no idea how he gets them all.
Yeah, like, there was just...
I completely forget how he actually gets all of them. I remember he ripped the yellow one from Vision's head, kills Vision. No more Vision.
That's at the end of the movie, yeah.
Yeah, that's towards the end of the movie. So he's got the green. I don't remember how he got the red. No, he's got the blue. I don't remember how he got the red or the green. I don't remember a lot of this movie. I've seen it twice.
Doctor Strange gave him the green one. I'm trying to remember. The first thing I wrote down for this was that there's a lot going on in this movie.
There is so much going on in this movie. It's a 2.5 hour movie. It doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. I don't think so. He gets the orange one for killing Gamora. So that's 2 deaths in here, which are kind of like permanent ones. I don't remember how he got the purple one. Where was the purple one?
He got 2 of them
from the collector. He took that one from the collector. So where was the ether? The red one was also there as well, wasn't it? Yes. Okay, so that's what's confusing me. He took it off Nova Prime. Nova Prime had the purple one.
They gave it to the collector.
No, so the collector had 2?
Yes.
Oh, well, maybe that's what's confusing me. The stones are all over the place. I've seen this so often. I've seen it recently, and it's still confusing to me.
So it starts out, he crushes the Tesseract. Then the Guardians go to try and get the ones from the collector before he gets there, and he's already got the Reality Stone because he changes everything. What one was the Reality Stone?
The red one.
So that must have been there. Yes, Thor gave the Reality Stone to the collector as well.
So the collector had 2 of them, so therefore,
he had the Power
after he's
Stone,
finished with the collector, he's got 3.
Then
he gets the green one because Doctor Strange just hands it over to him. That's
what I said. And he gets the Mind Stone off Vision, and then he gets the Soul Stone for killing Gamora.
Right, that was such a hard journey. Both of us can't remember at all how he got these stones. There's some really cool scenes in this, very cool sequences. I like how Thor gets his new axe, which was forged out of the dying star with Groot's arm as the handle. It's a very cool sequence there. I like how he's got a new weapon.
Stormbreaker, it's called.
Do they say that in this one?
Yes, they said it in this one. Because he asked the dwarf, he's like, what's its name?
Right, okay.
And I think it's also cool that, like, his axe is, like, even more powerful than his hammer.
Why is that? Because the dwarf made it that way.
He said, because he goes to the star and he says, what's the most powerful weapon you've ever made? You know, he's like, I need that. And so he. So
what was the most powerful weapon he had made? Heimdall's sword?
Maybe up until that point. This one was designed but not made yet.
Oh, okay. Right.
And then, because this one can call forth the Bifrost and everything. I'm just thinking, like, imagine if you'd never seen any of this stuff and just listened to this.
Yeah, like, this is kind of why we needed to watch through all of the MCU to even understand what does that mean.
Yeah, because if I had just gone in and watched this movie, I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Who's that? Who's this? Who's that? Why are there so many people? What are they talking about? What are these stones?
There's a very cool sequence on Titan where you've got quite a few characters and they're trying to rip the gauntlet off him and they're trying to overpower him. Mantis almost got the better of him.
Oh, I got so mad because Peter Quill just got cocky and he
Peter fucked this up twice, and that pisses me off because it wasn't just at that point with Mantis. There was a point before that where he also just, like, gave up. And it's like, if you didn't have these feelings for Gamora, which I feel like is completely tacked on, by the way, like, it didn't even feel fleshed out in Guardians 2, you wouldn't have any of this. It's Peter Quill's fault that this happened twice.
Yeah.
He's so annoying in that. I don't like you. Go away.
Quit being a little bitch.
There's a really cool part where he throws a fucking moon at these guys. I've never seen that in a movie before.
And what did Tony say? He's like, if you do that again, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah, something like that. You throw a moon at me again.
That was awesome. God, so much happens in this.
A lot happens. Yeah.
And then there's the battle in Wakanda.
I'm just racing around in my head. There's a big battle in Wakanda.
And why were they in Wakanda? They had to go to Wakanda because they were trying to get the stone out of Vision's head so that they could destroy it.
Yeah.
Without destroying Vision.
And
that
Bucky was there because he was injured.
Yep.
And he's got a new vibranium arm, which is fucking cool.
I didn't realize that was new.
I'm pretty sure it was. Maybe they just upgraded it.
It's new. Yeah. Okay, I remember a lot more of this movie now. But do you see, people, why I say so much happens in this movie?
Such as?
All the stuff we just talked about. Jeez.
Towards the beginning of this movie, we see that Vision and Wanda are in a relationship. They've been in a relationship for a couple of years. Vision is kind of like growing into a human. He's actually got human skin, which is kind of weird because you hadn't seen him before. And that didn't felt fleshed out at all, that relationship.
Yeah. Someone said right at the beginning, he's evolving.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird character trait. And then it doesn't last very long. As soon as he gets stabbed, it goes away. He goes back to his normal. Wanda completely gets rid of her terrible accent in this one. She has an American accent throughout almost all of the movie. I didn't really like Elizabeth Olsen in this role. I think she could have been recast better.
I don't know. I liked her. I thought she was okay.
So the big trait of this one is that Thanos actually wins. He gets all the stones. He puts it in the gauntlet. Oh, Thor gets the better of him and actually stabs him in the chest. But Thanos still manages to snap first. And he said you should have aimed for the head. So half of all life in all of the universe just gets faded out of existence. And there were people in the cinemas crying when I watched this.
Yeah.
This was a very big moment because, well, there's a lot of hard-hitting moments where Bucky's like, Cap, and then he fades off. Spider-Man turns to Stark and he's like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. And he, like, sort of disintegrates as well, and it was sort of his fault why he was there in the first place. There's a lot of moments here about the whole snap and disintegrating that sort of, like, are meant to hit really hard. I would have really loved if they had disintegrated the old characters, the ones from Phase 1. It's not like... You know this thing is going to be reversible when you get rid of Black Panther. You get rid of Spider-Man. You get rid of Doctor Strange.
Like, just came out.
Yeah, and they'd already announced a new Spider-Man movie. So you knew he was coming back. I just feel like there was no weight whatsoever in that whole disintegration snap thing. If you had got rid of Captain America, if you got rid of Thor, if you got rid of Iron Man, all the ones from Phase 1, there would be me being like, oh shit, are they actually coming back? You know, is this real? Is this permanent? I don't know. But as soon as you see what characters they actually snap away, it completely takes it out of it for me. I'm like, yeah, whatever, they'll just get him back in the next movie, you know? That's how these things work. I really didn't like that about it. What did you think? What did you feel about the whole snap thing? Did you know that Thanos was going to win?
I didn't. And again, it's kind of like, there's some spoilers that I knew about that I was like, oh, I wish I didn't know that. Because, yeah, it took me out of it. I guess I wasn't as invested. I wanted to see where it went. I think I knew that it wasn't going to last, but it still was emotionally affecting me. And I wanted to see how they turned it around. So I wasn't as, like, angry about it.
So I thought when I watched this that, they'll just use the green time stone to go back in time and redo it. That's what they're going to do. How do you think that they're going to fix this in Endgame? Is that what you think?
I can't answer that question.
So you have no idea how they're going to fix it?
I guess that's kind of what I thought they were going to do.
Okay. I really thought that they were just going to use the time stone. I think it would have been a really interesting thread to, like, if he snapped his fingers and Thanos also blipped out.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have happened.
Why?
Why would he blip himself out?
Well, just to half all of living creatures in the universe, it would have been cool if it had selected himself as well.
Mm.
Because he's kind of willing to sort of sacrifice himself for the greater good.
Mm.
So, I don't know, I just would have found that more interesting. The biggest problem I have with this movie is that the characters that they decided to pick.
Mm. Yeah, no, I can see why.
I kind of liked it. I think it's better than Ultron, obviously, but it kind of feels like half a movie to me, which it was meant to be. It was meant to be Infinity War Part 1.
Yes. There was so much that happened in this movie. It's a very complicated movie.
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it as well.
And then, not long after this came out, was Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel to Ant-Man. And this one, I didn't think was great. It was kind of shallow. Everyone was sort of looking for them to sort of address the whole snap thing because it was massive at the end of Infinity War. And then Ant-Man comes out and it doesn't address any of it because it's sort of set during the events of Infinity War. So you don't see any of that. You don't see any other characters.
It would have been better if Ant-Man 2 had come out immediately before Infinity War. Especially because of the end credit sequence. People would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
This is one where we did an overview of it. Yeah, I don't feel like I missed much.
Mostly because, there was not really any weight to anything, so we sort of did a bit of a recap on this. Essentially what happens is Scott Lang finds out that Hope's mum is still alive in the quantum realm. Which is bullshit, by the way. Like, come on. To be able to say that she's been living down there for 30 years, but it hasn't felt like that to her, even though she's aged. I don't really know. So when Scott went down there in the first one, he made this quantum connection sort of thing, this Harry Potter to Voldemort sort of connection. And then there's a point in here where Scott's actually taken over by her. So it's Hope's mother, 30 years later, taken over Scott Lang's body, and she's talking to her. It's like, oh, hi, sweetie, how's it going? Through Paul Rudd. It's really weird. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. That's not how things would actually go. And then the rest of the movie is them trying to go into the quantum realm to bring her mum back. And somehow that fucking works. They actually do. And now you've got, Hope's mum is back from the dead after 30 years. It doesn't really make any sense. There's like 3 different villains in this that I think are completely forgettable. I don't really like this movie. It's fine. It's neutral to bad for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't feel like I missed anything.
Basically, this movie was just setting up what is the quantum realm and how does time work in there. It's kind of just like a bunch of time jargon and bullshit put together to try and make you think that if you put quantum in front of anything, it just fixes your problems.
Spectacular, yeah.
Yeah.
Nah. Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, this is a very long phase. There's almost as many movies in this phase as there are in phase 1 and 2 combined. So Captain Marvel, another origin story, set back 1995. What did you think of this movie? This was another one where you were hesitant to watch because it kind of looked dumb.
I'm like, well, first of all, I think I unfairly judged Brie Larson. I'm not sure why.
I like her as an actress.
I was like, I really felt like she's gonna be a dick. And she was a little bit, but not too bad. This one, I initially also was like, oh, they're going back to the 90s, like, this is gonna be dumb. They did it in a fun, cool way. The soundtrack was cool. Like,
yeah.
It was dated, but, like, dated well, which was interesting, because you don't usually see kickback stuff to the 90s. You usually see kickback stuff to, like, the 80s, the 70s, whatever.
Yeah, because the 90s is kind of too recent to be nostalgia. But if you think about it, the 90s was 30 years ago.
Yeah, so...
We're in the 2020s now, so that's quite a long time ago.
So, as it went on, I liked it. I liked the character progression. This went back and addressed some like alien race stuff that was brought up in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Like what? Did I miss that?
No, well...
Were they talking about Skrulls and Kree and stuff, were they?
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
And Roman's in this again.
Ronan.
Yeah, Ronan. He's in this again.
Yeah. I do like how they piece together what the characters would have been doing at the time, like S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury.
This had a lot of fun character development for Nick Fury.
Yeah, you actually got to see, like, who is this, you know what I mean? This is just as much of a Nick Fury movie as it is any other of the MCU movies. No one else really explores who is he, what's his backstory.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that.
It's funny, it's got some funny stuff in it, and her character definitely grew on me. I like the fact that she's not an alien, she's actually, like, because that's what I thought initially was...
Yeah, it makes it seem like she's an alien for quite some time.
I like that she's not. She's actually a human. I don't know.
Again, this is like presenting problems when you introduce characters who are so overpowered. It's like, how are you going to try and control that in a real world scenario in future movies? Because she gets her powers from the Tesseract again. The fucking Tesseract is back.
Yep.
Where was the Tesseract back in 1995 kind of thread?
Yeah.
So she gets her powers from the Tesseract, who Wanda also got her powers from the Tesseract. Right? They were doing experiments.
Yeah.
Was it the Scepter? It was the Scepter they were doing experiments on.
Yeah.
And Wanda and her brother also got powers from the Scepter, so from the stone. I'm just thinking, like, even Red Skull in the first Captain America, he tried to harness the powers of the Tesseract, and it made his actual face turn into an actual literal Red Skull. And he didn't get crazy superpowers, he just sort of became immortal, I guess, and it zapped him off planets. Like, the powers as to what actually the Tesseract can do, or any of these stones can do, is very vague. You know, people get different powers out of the same stone for some reason.
I thought it was interesting because Wanda and Carol basically have the same powers.
Well, that's what I was just saying. They both got them from the stone.
They both got them, but I mean, they both get to shoot, like, fiery stuff, and they can both hover and fly, and it's interesting.
I thought Carol at least had to still breathe air, but it didn't look like it. She wasn't really wearing a mask for a fair bit of the ending of this.
Yeah.
This movie, I would put sort of in the same boat as the first Thor, but I think it's slightly better than the first Thor. I think it's okay. I'm not going to rush to watch it again. If you enjoyed it, that's fine, but I didn't really like it.
It was fine.
It was fine. I think it was unnecessary.
It was interesting because it felt very 90s.
Yeah, okay.
So that's kind of a testament to, like, good historical filmmaking, quote unquote, because they actually were able to, like, with set and jargon and everything, were able to put you back in that space, which is interesting. It was fine.
I feel like it raised more questions about where has Carol been this whole time?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's only called in by Nick Fury when it's really an emergency. She's got that super pager or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the events of Age of Ultron, where he's about to drop the city on the planet as like a meteor and extinct the whole planet, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
They were going to nuke all of Manhattan in the first Avengers movie and completely drop a nuclear bomb on New York. That's not a big enough emergency. You had to get, like, Iron Man to push this thing through a portal in the sky?
This is bigger because it's like literally affecting the entire universe. But like, how could Nick possibly
That's
have known
what it has
that?
to be?
But also, how could he have known that? He couldn't have known that.
Yeah. Because the post-credits sequence of Infinity War, Fury just sees Maria just gets snapped out, and he's like, oh fuck, I gotta get my pager, and he hits the button just in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how did you know what that was?
Yeah.
You think that that's a big enough emergency? Even in Winter Soldier, where they've got 3 helicarriers powered by Hydra to eliminate everyone who is possibly a threat to them, that's not big enough emergency. Like, there's so many things in this whole MCU where you could have possibly brought her in before, and you bring her in just to try and make up for stuff, to try and fix Endgame. Like, it's a weird introduction to this whole character, and I think it could have been done better. I don't particularly like it.
It was fine.
Also, it's Marvel, isn't it? Captain Marvel.
No.
How is she Marvel?
She's not. So Marvel was Wendy Lawson. And like she said, 2 words, Marvel. It was Mar-Vel, V-E-L-L. And Nick says, yeah, Marvel. Marvel sounds better. So she goes with Marvel.
So they dropped an L as well?
Yeah.
So that's not her name? Who's Wendy Lawson? Why is Carol Danvers Captain Marvel?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
She doesn't go by Captain Marvel either. She just goes by Carol Danvers. Like, nobody actually calls her Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
So the next one on the list is Avengers Endgame, which we will be getting to very soon.
Dun, dun,
Just
dun.
for our own viewing pleasure, because that's what we've been leading up to. And I said, when I watched that, I said that movie makes reference to every single movie in the MCU. And I watched it again recently, and I think it does. It absolutely does. You have to watch all 21 movies to really understand every little thing that they're trying to hit in that movie, which is why we did this. So I think that you're really going to enjoy it. Considering looking at what you enjoy from this whole journey and what you like out of certain movies, I think you're really going to like Endgame.
And considering how complicated the whole MCU is, like, I think it would be ridiculous just to have gone in and watched it alone.
Yeah, which is why we did this, yeah.
Yes.
It's really quite brilliant to be able to lead everything up to this one point and to be able to write it like that and orchestrate it like that. I know it's based on comic books because these similar traits sort of happened in the comic books with the Infinity Saga. But, yeah, I think it's really well done. So technically, Phase 3 also finishes with Spider-Man Far From Home, which, again, I don't know why they do this. Why do they tack on another one? It has, yeah. It came out months ago.
Well, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Are we going to watch it?
We could. I feel like they should have just finished Phase 3 after Endgame. Yeah, and then the new Spider-Man was the new Phase 4 or whatever. But Endgame is, as the studios have said, is the end of the Infinity Saga. So this whole journey was basically us finishing off the Infinity Saga, and anything from here on is just, I don't know what they're going to be doing. They have to start out with a whole other thread, because all of these movies have been based around the stones in some way, have based around Thanos as a main villain. So are they going to have another multi-movie thread with a different villain? I don't know. I'm very interested in where they're going to take this for the next 10 years.
Because they've got it all planned out.
Yeah, they've got it all planned out for like the next 2 phases.
I'm really curious to see Thor, Love and Thunder.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be so much fun.
It's
cheesy in a good way.
When I saw that, like, the trailer for it, I'm just like, this looks like an 80s heavy metal, like, glam metal CD
I think
cover.
that's what they're going for, yeah.
Like, and I'm just thinking it's gonna be like that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It sounds cheesy as fuck.
Well, I'm really glad that I got to introduce you to this very large piece of pop culture, very large, important thing of our generation.
Yes.
And it's not stopping anytime soon, absolutely. What did you think of the whole thing? Did you enjoy your process?
Was
it painful?
So, at times it was, because it was so long. Going into it, like, this was a huge endeavor. And, watching movies, that's so hard. Well, it's time consuming. A lot of them are really long.
Real lives.
Yeah. These are complicated movies, a lot of them. So you have to, like, be paying attention. Like, we would often have to pause, rewind, rewatch.
There's a lot of Easter eggs and throwbacks to other movies in the series and comic books.
Complicated movies. That said, I'm really glad I watched them because it was very enjoyable. The story is very enjoyable. Like you said, it's important pop culture phenomenon. So I think if you haven't seen them, I've always enjoyed superhero movies. And if other people do, like, you'd really enjoy these, go watch them. Yeah. Pleasant, again, so much pleasant surprise along this whole podcast journey. A little bit tired now, I think. Just because there were so many.
Cool. I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
I did. I really did.
Well, I guess that wraps up our MCU journey. Please listen to all the other episodes on the MCU and our normal list and honorable mentions as well.
And join us when we eventually cover Endgame.
Yeah, Endgame and Infinity War are on the list in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for those.
Until next time, thanks for listening.
I would have been taking notes if I were. I would like to, but it's a big movie to try and just dissect. It really is. We'll do it another time, okay? Thanks, babe.